At 8 o'clock, so why you stand for a pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Quit this. Computer wants to do stuff on its own.
We'll take a look at the first item, and that's review and approval of today's relatively short agenda.
So moved.
Thank you, Joan. Is there a second?
Second.
Mark. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved, motion carried. Our consent items, we have two items there regarding past minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
And second by Paul. Any other comments? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carried. County Board Issue Forum. We'll start with Joan.
Okay, so last week I had the East Polk Soil Water District meeting. We were talking about well sealing last time, and actually they had two of them, and they do it at 50% cost share, and they were taking money out of their conservation contracts for that. And then they also did a soil health services agreement with Clearwater County to kind of help take care of that program, and because Clearwater County really, they have a good program going, so they're willing to help East Polk with that. And then I had SHAC Executive Committee meeting, and I was only able to attend part of it, but when I was on, I did an update on the membership development committee that I am chair for, just an update of what we've done the past year and what the next year looks like going forward. And then Gary and I were at Extension, and Lisa did the presentation again on the memorandum agreement, and the advisory board did vote to support the new memorandum. I don't know if you wanted, did you write down some of the statistics that Heather had talked about?
I have some of the statistics regarding the county fair.
Okay, well, I'll just, you can do that.
Okay.
So Heather Dufault, she, the average age of a farmer in Polk County is 55.3. I thought, it might have been a little bit older, but, and 26% of those producers are female. And since 2017, now this is data for 2022, there were 547 new or beginning farmers. And products that are produced in the ag industry in Polk County was over $697 million. So, it just proves that ag is a very important part of our region and our county. And then Gary and I were in negotiations on Friday, and we were back again yesterday. I think we're seeing some good progress. And then last night I had Intercounty, and their health insurance was a 5.2% increase, but they don't have a lot of employees either, so I don't, for their middle plan, which is just for a single employee, went up about almost $53 a month. So, and then we were also presented with a MinCap annual impact report, and it's it's kind of interesting because I mean, there's 24 different agencies throughout the state of Minnesota plus 11 tribes. So, there are a lot of, um, these MinCap agencies throughout Minnesota. They cover, the whole state. And when I go through our um, check register um, before each meeting, there's a lot of money that goes out from our intercounty in Oakley, to the region and all the time. So, and then I had received a phone call in regards to a road that I passed the information on to Rich, and that should do it for me.
Park.
The well thing is kind of concerning to me. Like I said last meeting, it appears soil water through their operations do the well sealing, and their money's coming through from their specific monies or from the one watershed.
Nope. So for them, they're using their own funds, and I think like with the Clearwater, and also like Sandhill too, because the Soil and Water District has funds to use for that they don't necessarily use the one watershed money for that. Figure that they can keep that money and do larger projects.
Okay. That's, like I said last meeting, that's a concern for me, so that we treat the county, different districts of the county kind of the same.
And I don't know, like what the costs that the sealers charge,
Yeah,
throughout the county too.
and that could be different based on the different districts in the county also.
Yep.
Traffic, it almost happened to me again this morning. I'm going to contact Rich. Beet trucks, potato trucks pulling out, and I called the farmer this morning because I know him pretty well, and I expressed my concern and did put my county commission hat on, but also my farmer hat, and he made a comment to me that kind of hit pretty hard, or not hard, but like 90% of his drivers, which I think he said he's got like 14, 15 potato truck drivers. Wow. Most of them are from North Dakota, or he does have some H2 program. Yep, H2A drivers. In North Dakota, stop sign intersections have always stop, or cross traffic does not stop below the stop signs. I've witnessed it and I've seen it in Grand Forks and in Grand Forks County. And I think a lot of the problems is North Dakota drivers pulling up to these stop signs don't fully understand.
Stop.
And they are stopping. This morning, the guy stopped, but I'm coming from the west and he pulls out right in front of me. And luckily, if I had been driving a loaded beet truck, I would have hit him. And luckily, I was able to, with the car, slam on the brakes quick. I witnessed it yesterday morning. Same intersection, same time, so forth, same operation. And I got to talk to Rich. I think in some of these intersections, we have to mandate always stop or cross traffic stop, or cross traffic does not stop signs. It's getting out of hand, and people, their driving habits are getting worse. We know that, and we can't control it. But I think that simple little sign will carry a lot of, make people at least think a second time. and it's harvest and people are tired but not at 7:30 in the morning. It's just getting out of hand. Did have a call on budget. This party was watching some of the topics discussed last week, and um, taxes, budget is that person's concern, and been in front of the board previously. And I know we're setting a preliminary tax levy later today, but I think it's important that we gotta be respectful of budget, but also look at the true numbers of what's all going on. And I've got some real concerns going forward. So that's it for me.
Right. Joan and I guess, teamed up for meetings this past week, and with extension, the one thing I guess I was impressed by was the 4-H participation at the county fair. Just walking through there, you could tell that students have been very busy, and I think, let's see some of the statistics. 887 entries in 4-H. That was up 33%, and then a tremendous growth in the Clever Bud projects, and that I believe is the under 7 group. So it's showing a future thing, and just kind of highlighting the leadership qualities that are developed through 4-H. If your kids have done that, they certainly go on to be very strong leaders in their high school and college, and then obviously filling city councils, commissioners, boards. Very important aspect of this whole piece. And I'm going to try to get a hold of. There were 15 youth that participated in the state encampment down at the state fair. But William K., and I forget his last name, but I'm going to track him down, did very well. I think it's his first year in 4-H, and he ended up with 2 grand champions, which is remarkable. One in poultry with his turkey, and then he also won the chicken barbecue contest, first place. And that qualifies him to go to nationals. And so I'm going to see if he can come in. And pardon?
It must have been good.
Well, maybe he'll bring us a sample.
Was the champion chicken pre-barbecue or post-barbecue?
And I'm not sure if the chicken won a grand championship or not.
It was just the cooking of it.
Just the cooking, yes. Yeah, you didn't have to butcher, and well, just end that right there. But she's doing a very nice job with that. They've got a meeting this week on the Master Gardener program, and kind of interesting. One of the things they're concerned about is changing the word for master. Some people don't feel that's quite appropriate term, but the university has a little bit of a problem with that because they offer master degrees and bachelor degrees. So I'm not sure where that's going to go, or if I'm going to have to change my diploma or what, but we'll see. And one thing I think that we were all kind of astonished by is that it's a $3,000 tuition to go through that program, and I just have a feeling that I think all of us that's
Was it that much?
yeah, $3,000. The 300, yeah, I don't know what it was.
I thought it was 300.
Maybe it was. Big difference, but still $300
Yeah,
is
yeah, but,
$3,000
then there was
to
mention
some
that
people.
there's scholarship opportunities, but people probably they don't realize that. And
Negotiations going well. There'll be representatives will be going back to their fellow employees and making them aware of what the options are. So, but I think getting close, very close with that. Warren?
Not too much. We had the MPO meeting in the middle of Wednesday's session last week, so Ray's over there and go through about 3 or 4 agenda items. And Ray's back. Nothing of a significance there. We had drug task force on Thursday. That was a little different meeting of the membership there. Darren Selzler, who's the vice chair, was acting as chair because the chair couldn't be there. And I was the only other board member there who was actually on site. We had the quorum, but they were all on phone. And not much of a business meeting. There's a new agent from Polk County on drug force, but of course that person is undercover, so I won't reveal the name. So that's been a change there, and the forfeiture balance was reported as healthy. The person in charge did not have the right information. She's new on the job, and that'll be covered at the next meeting. Basically, that's all there. Well, have a busy Monday coming up. We have the West Central Water District meeting in Halsted at 8:30. Then we have the ribbon cutting at the roundabout at 11. And I have a medical thing in the afternoon, so it'll be kind of a busy day there. And then we have board meeting on Tuesday next week on October 1. It's not too often that happens on the first day of the month. It's enough for me.
Paul?
Just want to follow up on this same concerns as Mark had. I had, I don't know, these people are catching on to watching this stuff online.
Good.
And, so when you get those things, they have that same budgetary thing, and so I have those same concerns, and so watching that closely, I think, is very important. The water district deal, we had another letter came just to follow up on that. Remember, we talked about the judge is not going to want to have to, it was confirmed in that letter that we can make changes as we wish, as we need, as retirements, as recommissioned, so if changes can be made at our level for our portion without going to the court. So that was nice to see it written so that's nice to know. So, and like I said, I won't be there on that meeting. I have doctor appointment in the morning. I can't make it to that or the ribbon cutting. So,
okay.
All righty. It looks like Sam Melby is up next.
Good morning. So what I have for you is going to be a contract with Vanguard Appraisal for our assessor's office to do their archive process,
What is that?
keeping older records.
Do you have keep paper records?
No, electronically.
Okay.
Yeah, this would be to archive their assessments.
Okay.
And so this would cover 6 years or 6 processes. And as you can see on the contract, if we do it with 6, we get a 20% discount. This would be starting in 2025.
So this is for a 6-year contract.
It's 6 archive processes is what it's listed on there. Per process. I believe they do it once a year. I wouldn't see why they would do it more than once a year, but yes, it's for starting, because currently we're in a contract where they're doing it.
Say with the same group.
Yes, yeah. This is the assessment software that we use, Vanguard Appraisal.
Are they on schedule to do some new appraisals at some point, or don't they do that on their?
For Vanguard to do it? They've come in and helped us in the past when we've had state orders, such as with the city of Crookston and the city of East Grand Forks. Lately, those have not been an issue. with the state at all, so we haven't had the need to bring Vanguard in to help us recanvass or reassess a large area. Our assessment staff has been doing a nice job. The state, I don't know if they had many state orders this year that we went over at the county board meeting. It wasn't much if there was anything, so they haven't needed that. They've been doing a nice job.
Good. Thank you.
Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Probably
we
need
gotta
a
make a
motion.
motion
We
first.
better do that.
I so move, one of us. I move.
Motion, Mark second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Which carries.
All right, well, thank you very much. You want this up here?
Yeah.
Good
Want
morning.
us to wait 20 minutes before you come on?
No, you guys must have other things to do today.
We're moving on.
Moving on. Well, the first item is following up on our discussion after 2 days in this room on the budget last week about what to set the preliminary levy at, and the consensus seemed to be 5%. So I've drafted up the resolution that way. 5% would be higher than any levy increase we've had in any of the data that I've given you. Target obviously is usually about 3%. Excuse me, but last week when we were discussing, we weren't quite sure where we were going to end up in some of our contract negotiations. I actually recommended a 6%, but we've met with 4 unions since then, and we feel like we've made some progress. We're still going to see some push on the budget, but I think we can feel relatively confident of getting the levy down to that 3% range, and we'll have some discussions then about what's in, what's out as we get close to that. But we've got one more group to negotiate with. I've informed department heads to do a little bit of recalculating, but we'll wait till we meet with them next week and see where that ends up. That will end up dictating a lot of where we end up on the budget. A 5% increase is a $1.378 million increase over 2024. That would put the overall levy at $28,948,663. As part of this resolution, we also set the public hearing for the budget. And I have the date wrong there. It should be December 3rd, not
Right.
December 13th. So we'll correct that. At 6 p.m. in this room, public hearing means the public is welcome to attend and give input on their concerns regarding the budget or anything else that they want to address the board on. If you want something different than 5%, we can table it, and I can try to do some recalculations and come back to you before the end of the meeting. But that's what is proposed here today.
Well, 5% will not be the final, so it probably doesn't have a whole lot of importance to get it down, up or down from that number.
Well, there wasn't unanimity on 5% last week, but it averaged out to 5%.
Yeah.
I'll respect that. This is clearly a board decision, and the notice for the hearing and the information that goes to taxpayers is based on this. So there's a bit of a message that goes into this process. I've seen cities and counties much higher than that, and of course some lower. It just kind of depends on our circumstances, and I think if we weren't in the middle of contract negotiations, which is the big item for next year's budget, I might be looking at maybe a little different number, but we have to do a lot of calculating. Once those agreements are committed to, I will say that I wasn't um, uh, optimistic going into this process that we would be this far along on contracts. It's actually, I think, pretty good. I wasn't going to be surprised if we had open ones, and we still may.
Yeah.
We still may. Memberships have to vote, but open contracts pass first of the year, which would require us just to set numbers and go. But I think we're going to be a little bit behind on where I would like to be at this point in time on the budget, but still a lot of time to uh, get a final product with good decisions for you guys.
Being my first time through in the negotiation part and with the hesitancy last week when we talked about that 5%, and then after, like you said, we got a few days to think about that again. I like to stick by what I think, but that takes me back to my original thought is I don't like setting something higher than giving the wrong message. And in part of the hesitancy at that time was you still had these negotiations. Well, now your negotiations, you don't want to give the wrong message, so I don't want to say anything regarding that because you still have some to go. But I agree with what you say. Doesn't mean a whole lot, but for me, the 5 does give the wrong initial message. I guess that's all I have to say.
Right, and maybe I'm being very optimistic, but I think what our goal is at 3% reduce that. And that's maybe the message that has to go with this. And the 5% is absolutely the highest worst case scenario.
Mhm.
Obviously, we cannot go above that.
Correct, yeah. And I think too that, that's just been our general practice that we've done through the years. So I think people understand that. And, we still have, 3 months of the year left. And things, excuse me, we have had some years where all of a sudden something pops up. And, then you're scrambling to try and figure out, well, how do we make this fit into the budget or what? I think there's, we don't have, with the negotiations, we don't have anything totally, we have tentative agreements, but, nothing that's been voted on, so.
Well, this number is really, like I've said before, it doesn't mean much. It's the one in December. And my concern on this whole budget process is not pushing things down the road so far that at some point you have to come back and take them on. I know the city of East Grand Forks did it some years ago, but after doing that for several years, they came back with a levy increase of 25%. The next year it was 18%. Well, they caught up, but it was pretty painful. And I don't want us ever to get in that position again.
I understand the process and the reason to be setting the preliminary increase. But unfortunately, the public will see the 5% because what's the
Truth in taxation.
statements will go out at that number. And to Warren's point, yes, we can pat ourselves on the back at the end of the day and say we got it to whatever we end up at 4.75 or 2.75. That's all good. But when Chuck, you gave some numbers last meeting, what just the last 5 years, and I think it averaged out to what, 3.65% increase?
For the final levy,
No, the
preliminary,
preliminary.
what I recall is we generally average 5%. I think we were below 5 for last year for this.
4.999.
Yeah,
Was it?
That's pretty much 5%.
I can call that up if you want to see it.
Well,
Um,
no, I understand the process. 5% for me is quite stiff. And I understand, I would like to see a lot lower. When we did the straw poll, I was at 4.
mhm.
I think 4, let me back up, quick calculation on the 4%, what would that increase roughly?
Increase roughly 1.185.
So about a $250,000 savings at 1%.
Just under 200,000. Because this one increases 1.378. So it's just under 200,000 would be another percent.
Okay, I was at 4 earlier. I don't mean to boondoggle this thing, but it's just a concern,
And that,
so far and so on.
even after being gone for this week and you hear from other people, it's just surprising because last year we weren't online at this point.
Correct.
And when you get one or two or people in there and they're out there talking and somebody stops you and they ask you about that, okay, yes, I understand the process. This is where we're at, but we're not. You guys know where I sit, how I feel about this stuff. It's the final number, yes, but it's the initial message.
I think one of the saving points in this budget is that we have some grant funds available, and I, as much as possible, use those to pay down capital items. And I think that's a benefit not only for the current budget, but for the budgets in years in advance.
Commissioner Hall, you were correct. It's more like the 2.7. I don't know what I did with my math, but it was a little off. It'd be 1.1 at 4%.
Okay.
Closer to that.
And then we would make that final decision, I believe, at our last meeting on December 17th.
The final levy,
Final
the
levy.
actual levy is
Right.
December 17th.
Public has an opportunity on the 3rd to kind of see where we're at.
Yeah, usually by the 3rd, usually before Thanksgiving, we've got the budget pretty much finalized in terms of what's going to be presented for the public hearing, including what the levy would be and what that corresponding tax rate would be. And then everything on the 3rd is based on that, which will be less than this. So that's usually, well, it's what's, I want to say normal. It's normal for us. It's normal most governmental units. It's just kind of the way the issues are set up, and you have several meetings between now and then as we can kind of pare some things down as to, well, what are the last things in, the last things, first things out for next year. But yeah, there's no doubt we're going to be using some existing funds.
Right.
And we do have some that we haven't
Some reserve.
decided on what to do with, but the big initiatives in the budget are really limited to just getting these contracts done.
70% of some of these departments' budget.
Yeah.
Wages and
so,
benefits. Are
Right.
a
that
large
is,
percentage.
I just remind everybody too, I think about, I'd have to get my graphs out again, but it's about 40% of our revenues is the levy. So a lot depends on the other revenues that we're getting too. But I'm not making any excuses. A tax is a tax. I pay taxes too. I'm not anxious to see mine go up.
If we want to pat ourselves on the back, we can go back to our record of levy increases, which over the last 16, 17 years has been less than 3%. And I don't know that there's any other government bodies around that can match that record.
I never expect any pats on the back. It's on to the next thing because you know, one thing leads to the next, and it's just never actually stops. So
Is there a motion to proceed with the 5%?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Further discussion? Well, I think we're all committed to getting that below that 5. So for those folks that are out there, and I know there's a lot of people struggling with inflation and
As,
increases.
Joan beat me to the second. Just gonna throw this out for modification of the motion, with setting the preliminary at 5% with a target goal of 3.65. I'm just throwing it on the table for discussion.
I think 3.6 might even be high. Warren?
Well, I go for that 3.6. I think it's realistic.
I think it's realistic, but I think it's just a little high. 3.6 is high.
if I may add,
Yes, sir.
um, since this is a resolution on setting the preliminary levy, is to acknowledge that as an objective, which I would tell you as your administrator is higher than my target as far as trying to get you a budget, but certainly acknowledge the interest in this and amending the resolution to include that. I might suggest maybe just a motion on its own, saying let's hit a target for that, rather than rewriting the actual resolution.
I'm glad your opinion was that you can do lower than my. So I'll pull my conversation.
That satisfies your intent.
Go to your 2.6.
2 points. Well, I will say I always figure if I can get it to 3, which you know, it's just you just don't do things, or you just use a fund balance, or you just delay
Right.
something coming, but you get it in front of the board to have a discussion, so you make the choice. But it isn't that I want to make it easy for you. It's at that point, that's where the final, more difficult choices are. If you want to get down to last year, we went to 2.5. I wasn't totally prepared for that, but I knew how to do it. It's you know, this is not rocket science. In the end, you do what you can afford to do or think you can afford to do. Knowing that some of the money obviously goes back into the community in way, shapes, and forms, and you know, maybe we end up with new stop signs at intersections, and we're paying for that, or social service issues, or you know.
Well, the whole budget process is a moving target. It's a roadmap to financial management. So I get it and I understand. It's just the message that I'm hearing from a few people, that we're setting the tone, because the one party, hey, I'm not making as much money as I did last year or the year before. And Social Security, for a lot of our constituents, Social Security is pretty much it.
It's kind of frozen.
Property values are going up. We saw the numbers, $1 billion more. The county's realizing $1 billion more of tax base countywide, and then you add in the new construction, it 14.6%. And my concern is, yes, people should see a reduction of taxation this year and potentially next year. But as those assessed values come down and our budget keeps going up, that's my concern 4 and 5 years down the road. And yes, we can't create the crystal ball currently for that, but we gotta be aware of that also.
You see, and my thing with this whole thing is, I can say something last week, and I can feel something different this week. That's on me. I just don't want it to. I want to make sure that it's known that I can be responsible for my change in the way I think, you know, and that's what I need to make sure that when somebody talks to me about this, then, are you willing to make that step in your position? No, and that's what I'm hopefully portraying now, is that, okay, somebody brought it to light, not just one, not just two, you know, so you got to answer to that, and I'm going to answer. I will answer to that way. But I know, I have confidence we're going to get to what you're looking at. But for the preliminary part, I gotta hold my ground there too. Then
Sometimes margin is a good thing.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, at the county level, we're hit with what everybody else is hit with their personal. I mean, where wages and benefits are a huge part of our budget. And utility costs, I mean, our operating expenses. I mean, everything is up just like everybody else is experiencing, and, we've tried to do different updates to buildings to help cut, utility costs and, where we can. And so, I think that we're trying to do the best that we can. But then at the same time too, like, Warren has talked about, where, you delay something and then it just, I mean, we've seen how costs have increased, and then it just gets worse. And then you have a larger issue going forward. And, and sometimes too with, like, at least when we just use fund balance for capital projects instead of, using it for the actual operation, that it doesn't catch up to us. Because at some point, if you keep using fund balance for just your regular operating expenses, that you don't have that to draw on, and you still have these expenses, and then how do you pay for them?
Anything else? If not, we have a motion and a second. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
And we'll correct that date in the
To the
resolution.
3rd, correct.
it's corrected in the minutes.
Thank you. Next item, I'm doing this for John Steiner. We have a new position we want to create. This is the result of losing employees as much as anything. The new position is a material resource facility crew leader. Essentially what we're trying to do here is position current staff to migrate into some of these positions that we have that require boiler licensing. We lose our people that have these credentials, and frankly we can't operate without those credentials, so we've got to get people in the queue to migrate into them. We need to incentivize them to stay with the county. Job description is included here, and it's been scored, so it's grade 11. I don't have my, you asked me what the pay is on that. I'd have to get my grid out, but we will need to notify the 49ers of this. It's a union position. I don't expect that to be an issue. But we'd like to fill that position, and then I'm trying to think. John has two motions on here, but I think we can do it as one is to create the new position and move ahead to fill it. We'll post it internally, so there may be some movement of existing people into that position, which would require us to backfill those positions as well. And if you watch our ads, we're constantly trying to find people to fill out the workforce in solid waste. This is a non-levy supported position. Solid waste is fee-based. So the discussion we just had on the levy is not affected by this position. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the position and fill it.
And we have,
time or
I think we have to do one at a time.
Well, he wrote the memo. It's on the agenda as just one motion, but we can do it both either way, whatever you'd like.
We'll do as posted on the agenda.
move to approve 1 and 2.
Is there a second?
Second.
Uh,
And then the other ones will be posted separately to follow
We-
once these are filled.
Right, we post them per the contract and internally first and then externally.
It takes a significant time to pick up a boiler's license, right?
5 years?
5 years.
Right, it's like 5 years, and
So that's,
you know it's solid work if anybody's interested in it. Very, very responsible position, but we have a dilemma in that there are places over in the Bemidji area that seem to take our people.
there's the demand.
Right,
Yeah,
and so
They're trained. That's what irks me. We train them, they take them.
Oh, true.
They don't train their own.
well, there's not enough of these folks. That's the thing. It's like a lot of positions that we're struggling to find are people to fill. That it's specialized, and so we're trying to respond appropriately here. And
Because our closest person is about halfway through to getting this full license, so.
Well, we still have a salary issue. And even with this upgrade, are they still gonna be subject to,
well, it's a reality that we have, even with the status of our contract negotiations. We're in a competitive environment, and it's very dynamic. I don't know 5 years ago we would have necessarily seen this coming, but since the pandemic, the way things have gone in the economy, the advantages shifted to labor for a lot of these positions. And I think some positions are maybe less known to people who may be interested in them. So we do spend an awful lot of time trying to develop our own employees.
Just takes
Try to
time.
keep them interested, try to keep them compensated. Work environment, it's a tough work environment over there, but it's very interesting. And these are high pressure boiler positions. Even low pressure boiler positions that we have in maintenance are difficult. Yeah, and the board is aware of the kind of turnover we've had, and we just need to keep things together. I don't want to get to the point where the ability to operate that facility is in jeopardy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Okay, if not, we'll wait till Mark sits down. We'll go ahead and vote on his motion. Anything to add, Mark? You're fine with? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Okay, next item. Let's see, this is the last item. I've got an agreement here that I'd like the board to enter into with the Abdo Financial Solutions firm. They are familiar with us, having done a workflow analysis back in 2016, most of which has remained the same. We also use them to do an RFP on software, which we have not capitalized on, but has been made aware. I've been made aware that we could be looking at some changes in staffing, and I don't want to be caught off guard. So I talked to Jean. Jean, are you out there online here right now?
I am online here.
Let's see.
One on the right.
One on the right. This one?
No, of those two windows, the one on the right.
Oh,
Gene, can you turn the camera on?
if you can turn your camera on, Jean, I'll have you enter in.
I have my camera on. Can you see me?
No.
We don't see you, but we hear you.
Shut to me that thing on her camera, like I had that trouble.
What's it say?
It says try reconnecting or use another device. Your camera isn't working, but I assume that's talking to me. Yeah. Saw you during the test run, so I know you're out there.
Did you switch cameras or anything, Gene? Are you still on the same device?
I'm on the same device and my camera is on.
Strange. Why that's
Well, Tim,
we have no way around it. So
okay. Well, we'll just have you participate verbally then, but couple things about Abdo, and Jim can speak to this. They do finance director level type of work for communities, cities, counties that either have transitioned or may transition with their staff. They're familiar with us. I think that they have some county people that can come in and work with our staff to learn how things are being done right now. We certainly have had our share of turnover in some of the finance folks, but we do have a good crew of people that have worked here for quite a while and know what they're doing. There are some things going back to the workflow study that have not been moved on, but I think we can look forward to trying some of those. They would be starting out coming in a couple of weeks and just meeting with staff, doing kind of an assessment of finance operations around the county, and get involved with some of the payroll and HR components of this, and kind of work with us in each department. Each department has finance people, and kind of get ourselves going. I know we've had some discussions too with our auditor, Colleen Hoffman, out of Thief. So I'd like to see her involvement as well. And I suggest that we just have routine finance committee meetings at the end of the board meetings once a month to kind of see where we're at. I think right now I would like to see some involvement in how I'm doing the budgeting. There may be some tail end auditing that's still going on that would be helpful to have them clued in on. And I think, Gene, at this point, I might just have you kind of give the basics of of what we've been discussing on the phone here for the last couple of weeks.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Um, so Chuck and I have been discussing kind of the overall approach and the needs of the county over, the past several weeks. And so what we have been discussing is that I would initially have a team come in and do an initial assessment. And what this initial assessment would involve is really looking at the overall, where is the finance department at? Where are we at as far as month-end close? Where are we at as far as being completely caught up? It's almost the end of September. And so are we going to be ready for year end? Where are we at as far as the training with the finance staff? Are there any questions that the finance staff has? Are there training needs that are there? And if so, we will train the staff in any areas that are needed. Also, talking to different departments, seeing what any of their needs are as well. From there, we'll, of course, make certain that the months are closed. The financial reporting is great, for all of you. We'll make certain that, the audit is ready to go in a timely fashion. And it's always our objective is that we work very closely with the auditor to ensure that they have all of the audit work papers and documentation that they need a week prior to when they start the audit. So they have everything ready to go so that when they come into audit, everything is ready to go. So they can complete their audits, in a timely manner, and you will have your, audited financial reports right away, based on the auditor's schedule. We would also go through and take a look at the 2016 process recommendation the information that we had prepared for you back then. And one of the areas that we would first look at is the banking services and develop a request for proposal on that. Please interrupt me at any time if you do have questions. Another component of our service is that we know that currently payroll is being processed within social services, and we would want to take a look at the processes for payroll, the interaction between human resources and payroll. We would have a team taking a look at all of the, various best practices in HR and payroll, procedures being utilized for payroll, looking at the employee handbook, just making certain with all of the new regulations that are upcoming too, that everything is up to date, for the county. Another thing that we feel that is extremely important is that on a monthly basis that we would provide an update to all of you as to our progress so that you are well informed and any of your questions are addressed as well. I can certainly get into very, detailed specifics, but at a high level, those are, some of the areas that we would be covering. I do have, kind of a detailed scope of services listed out in our proposal itself. But like I said, I'm happy to answer questions that you may have too.
I think the initial thing that has been involved in a lot of our discussions is the importance of just making sure that day-to-day operations continue as well as they can. Clearly, bill processing and payroll are just they feel routine, but if they're disrupted for some reason, like missing staff, that can be a real problem. I don't have the ability to step in on that. So that's kind of the first thing, and I think the assessment component is the initial part of this, and then seeing what we can do as people leave, or as the assessment gets done about what areas we should be focusing on for assistance, help, improvement, training, what have you. I want to emphasize that we've got good people and everybody works hard, and it's not about that. It's about the amount of change that we've had, and making sure that we've got a safety net here to make sure things are going forward. This isn't much different than what I thought when I came here, that you lost a long-term coordinator and auditor, and some assessment of how things work here should be done. I think it's a healthy thing to do, and that's now 8 years out. And if we have more changes, clearly we had changes in social services, but we've also had changes in finance, and may have another one. So from my standpoint, I don't know if we can do this fast enough. Paying for it, I addressed a little bit in my memo that we had talked back when we were looking at the software of utilizing American Rescue Plan funds. Those funds are still there, and I would look to that. I actually went and changed the budget late yesterday after our department budgets, because I had budgeted another staff person, but I think I'll hold off on that until we see what the assessment is like here. But I'll have to figure out how I include this in the budget, but the funding source would be funds that we already have. I think that would be the most reasonable thing to do, since so many departments have different funding sources. It just doesn't seem like it should be a one budget type of approach.
Is this an ongoing thing, or is it a one-time practice?
I think we go through the assessment and we see, because the transitioning part, if a staff member leaves, then we have to have the discussion about what to do after that. But this is one of those departments where every day there's work, and we can't just tell the world we can't pay bills until we have somebody, or ask the employees to hold off on payroll until we can hire somebody. And there's been some effort. The board was supportive 2 and 3 years ago of trying to find another leadership position in this area, and we weren't successful. So we just go as we've been going, but when the word is put out there that there may be some more changes to come, how difficult it's been in social services, and this one is a pretty much of a key position.
Is this a request to spend up to a certain amount of money, or is this a request to have them come in to give us an assessment and then calculate the service agreement?
Well, and Gene can step in on this. The initial assessment, I think, is the main thing. And Gene, I believe you're talking about having 3 people come in here on October 8th. And
Right.
And that worked from my standpoint. I have a department head meeting on the 8th, and we'd invite the person in for that, the people. But go ahead,
Right,
Gene.
for the initial assessment, I would have 3 of my team members come in for 2 days. And, they would attend the department director meeting. They'd be working with, the finance team. They'd be going through, everything within finance to do their initial assessment, and then provide recommendations as to where we start. Within the proposal, I also have the training and month-end close, items out to ensure that staff is trained if in the areas that we're finding from the initial assessment, and that the month-end close procedures are well documented and everything is up to date. I do have, these are all options for your consideration. I do have the, interim finance director listed, and that is based on an hourly basis. So you can choose to have as much or as little assistance within that area as you'd like. I have audit preparation listed as well. And then I also have the banking services request for proposal development, as well as the implementation of the outcomes of that our request for proposal indicated as well. So it's, these are all listed for the board's consideration for however, much assistance and services as you so choose.
So the initial assessment is a fixed fee, and I think we would want to be prepared for that, and that would be from the ARPA. But I think that will give you an indication of what else may or may not need to be done after that. And then I think we follow up with our finance committee on a routine basis to go through that so that everybody knows where we may be headed and what kind of decisions could be made on some of these other things. Any questions for me or for Jean?
Explain the interim finance director range, estimated monthly fee.
Jean, did you hear that question?
I did, and that is just based on our past experience working with government agencies, whether it be a county, a city, a special district, based on size and complexity. Now, that is just an estimated range. Sometimes, a government may say, hey, we only request X amount of hours per month. And other times it's, yes, we need you to take care of everything that needs to be taken care of. The estimate that I provided is based on taking care of, based on my past experience, everything that needs to be taken care of. Now, we could come in and say, oh my gosh, everything looks absolutely wonderful. And then that estimated monthly fee would be reduced. But until we do that initial assessment, we won't know.
And I should note, I haven't been given anything formally to tell me that I'm going to need an interim finance director. When I do, then this may end up being part of the equation. I don't think that's going to be our first thing that we're going to be looking at. Utilizing a search firm to find a new finance director if that position goes vacant or is going to be vacant will be another discussion. But as I said, 2021 and 2022 it took all summer and we weren't successful. So there'd be an effort there that would be needed. Abdo doesn't do those searches, but we've used another firm for that. But I would think we might be revisiting that if that's what happens. Again, I'm going on basically what I've been hearing, so don't want to be caught off guard.
So in your opinion, what's the max the resolution is dollar-wise?
Well, the initial one would be the 21,000 for the assessment, the 3 people coming up. I think that will tell us what the training and month-end close ends up looking like. And as we get into it, I think we'll end up learning more about what we need, and we'll be revisiting some of these. what I'm looking for, and Gene, you can tell me if I'm right or not on this, but if we have an agreement with you, we start in that order, and we're not dictated to follow through all the way to the end with all these expenses. We're going to end up seeing what level of service we need from Abdo, and probably have discussions about costs as we go.
What's involved with the bank services?
With the banking services request for proposal, that was a recommendation from the 2016 process evaluation. And that resulted from the fact that the number of different bank accounts that the county currently has, and also the number of services that you could be receiving that would really streamline a lot of process for you, and really be able to use more electronic type processes, and also to beef up safety and security and provide less risk to the county.
And the 18,000, that's a fixed fee.
That's correct.
I see this as a good first step. So forth and so on. I'm just a little concerned that we very easily could slip into the estimated monthly fee and estimated fees. I'd feel more comfortable setting an agreement for X amount of dollars up to no more than X amount of dollars for this initial assessment, and then decide at a later date
Sure.
how much farther we go
That's kind of
into
what she has lined up here, right?
That's kind of what we've got lined up there. We have a finance director, but I mean, if that position goes vacant,
Yep.
Obviously work will have to be done while he's still here.
Yep.
But I think the initial assessment will give us a picture of where we may want to go. The training in month end will be, I would say that's kind of routine. I think that'll be more of an assistance type of thing, because I mean we do that now. But if the position, the finance director retires or leaves, then we're going to need to do something in the interim, and that's a lot of money, which would lead me to say we ought to be looking for another finance director at that point. So,
But initially, it looks like 21,000, and then there's going to be some training involved.
right,
So we could be looking at 47 to 50,000 about
yeah,
to start this thing off.
Yep.
To get us. Do we necessarily have to go right to the banking services? Do you need to know that right away?
no, I think as we get the assessment
We'll
going,
know.
but I don't, other places I've worked, about every 3-4 years you do a banking RFP. I'm not aware that we've done one, certainly not in the 12 years I've been here, but when we went through the workflow, we had some discussions with a couple of banks about what can be done, and we didn't really follow through on those. But I think we ought to be aware of it. I think the board ought to be more aware of what that means. And I think that can be done through this process. But I would say that just like it's listed there, it'd be the third thing.
Okay.
But we'll get a work plan, I think, coming out of that initial assessment.
when would you expect that the initial assessment training month end stuff by the end of the year?
Oh yeah, we were just talking about having their people come up here, because obviously they're not in this area, but that October 8th and 9th day, let them get to all the work sites that we've got, say, hello, this is who I am, this is what we're looking at, tell me how you do this, tell me how you do that, And then we go through with the discussions afterwards about what that means and, you know, what they're seeing. Don't want to disrupt everybody's work, but certainly get familiar how they're doing it and then see what may be needed after that. Again, you know, it's kind of hard to put this in a box because we've looked at, well, what if it's just one person leaving? Well, I think everybody kind of has an idea of what they're supposed to do. But obviously it's a key position, so somebody's got to direct it.
Right, but they need to know this so that
Right.
if everybody knows what they know.
Right. And I, you know, being responsible
Mhm.
from my standpoint, I certainly want to know that, but I can't step in and do that.
December 1st, the assessment should be done, and we should have a pretty good idea of
Well, Gene,
looking forward.
Commissioner Holey's asking me because he can't see you, but can you?
Right, we plan to do the initial assessment. We would be up there the 8th and 9th of October. And then after, I believe, the last board meeting in October, we would report our initial findings or recommendations to the board.
Okay. And then we would move into the training. If so be it, then we would ask you to move forward with the training portion.
Correct,
I see.
correct.
So we're not going right into the training portion, just the initial assessment.
I guess that would depend on
Right, we would.
what our motion is.
Right, okay.
We would want to provide you information as to what the initial assessment outcomes are, so that you're well informed before we get into the training.
I see.
Is there a motion to proceed with that initial assessment for, is it 21,000?
Mhm.
I'd say I'll move to not to exceed 21,000 at this point.
I will second that. Any further questions?
Come out of your budget?
ARP, right?
We're gonna have it come out of ARP, and then I'll figure out.
Okay.
You know, we've done these things directly from source of funds, whether it should show up in the budget, perhaps for 2025, but we can do it either way.
When we started allocating ARP dollars,
Yeah.
we had sent a very sizable amount to make some improvements in our financial department. So that money is at least still there.
Yep.
And I would guess we would try to use most of that to proceed with the improvements that are recommended.
I think the overall concept is good. It's just how many steps going forward is.
Right.
How many steps and how much is it going to cost?
Yeah, and that's why the assessment is, you know, that's
Critical.
gotta be your first step, and yeah, it's
No.
important one, so.
I need to know. I mean,
You can get all the information you need on those first 2 days.
Yes, we'll be able to provide the assessment within those 2 days, because I'll have 3 team members going through things.
All right.
Well, we have a motion and a second. Any further? If not, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carried.
Okay.
Well, looking forward for your knowledge.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gene. I'll follow up with you later.
Sounds good. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. I think that concludes everything on our agenda.
Yeah, I kind of gave you a little bit of a budget update just from the standpoint of the contract negotiations, but there'll be some calculating. I probably won't get a summary budget until either end of next week or the following week, be my guess.
I think our hope is by the end of October, we would have some signed agreements.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certainly to bring here to get approval too.
Yep.
Yeah, see what the group's